Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
They tried to quench the fire, drown it all in chains, tried to break our will and wash away our names. But every spark they buried only fed the flame. Now the cry of freedom's roaring through the rain. Hear the cry of freedom on the winds of change. Every voice united, breaking every chain. We were born to stand and never bow again. Let the fire of liberty forever reign. Forever reign. Now the walls are shaking from the battle cry. Truth is rising to the sky. Every soul that ever felt the weight of chains feels the fire of freedom in their veins. No more chains, no more lies. Hear the thunder as we rise. Freedom's call won't be denied. Now the fire burns worldwide. Hear the cry of freedom on the winds of change. Every voice united, breaking every chain. We were born to stand and never bow again. Let the fire of liberty forever reign. Let the fire of liberty forever reign.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
So Celebrity designer Jeff Lewis is back with Hollywood House Lift.
I'm excited to be working with new clients.
I'm not getting rid of that.
I hope I never see you both again.
Yeah. An all-new season.
Those have to go. That has to go.
From oh, wow,
It's been an actual nightmare.
to oh, wow.
This is such an upgrade.
With celebrities like Josh Duhamel, Christina Ricci, and Gina Rodriguez.
Dazzle me, Jeff.
It looks like Chuck E. Cheese.
Stream an all-new season of Hollywood House Lift with Jeff Lewis, now streaming on Freevee.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Got a vendetta. Coffee tastes like bad decisions I ain't made yet. Boss man talking about we got her, and that means me, brother. Afraid I got a terminal case of the I don't want us. Mind checked out, heart ain't in the building. That second hand's crawling like it hates my guts. The man treating rich like it's a sin, even God took a beat. So, suck it. Thank God it's Friday, punching out loud. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. You're still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and a barstool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till Monday. Cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, work and wait. It ain't owning me. So raise them up high. Let the whistle blow. Thank God it's Friday. That's all I know. HR in the break room sounding like a preacher, talking about culture, smiles, and being team players. Clipboard dreams on the fluorescent light, selling hours of my life just to make it to Friday night. Got dirt on my jeans, and grease on my hands, clock more over than quality plans. But when that bell rings, it's a holy sound. Feel like change hit the floor when it echoes around. I ain't lazy, I just work my fill. If rest is a sin, guess I always will. Thank God it's Friday, punching out loud. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill still waiting, but tonight don't care. Cold beer sermon and a bar stool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till Monday, cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, work and wait. It ain't on to me. So raise 'em up high. Let the whistle blow. Thank God it's Friday. That's all I know. Boss can have Monday. God on Sunday. But Friday night's my
And welcome into the It's Finally Friday edition of the Rick Robinson Show, live right here on KLONradio.com. I hope everybody's having a great Friday. For those of you working for the weekend, you're nearly there. Unless you're a teacher, and then you snuck out early to go do some stupid. Anyway, we're going to be getting into that. I'm wondering, because I just realized my granddaughter's out today, and I'm like, dude, if they're out protesting for Mayday in Oklahoma, I'm probably about to go vote. Okay, not really. Nobody do the whole get me banned thing or nothing. I'm not anyway. We've already seen which side really does that, and they don't ever want to admit it. But anyway, so we're here, we're live, and it is Friday. Hope everybody's having a great Friday again so far. And there is no shortage of things to talk about. So as you are coming in, because I do see some of you starting to trickle your way in here. As you are coming in here, make sure you are liking the feed, sharing the feed, telling people about us, because the algorithm, every time we think we've got it figured out, starts trying to bury us again. They don't like the truth for some reason. I never really have understood why, but here we are. All right, so okay, let's start there. All right, so it's Mayday. For everybody who doesn't know the origin of Mayday, this started as a socialist holiday to recognize the workers, and then eventually became a communist day. And now we have kids out today and teachers out today screaming about taxing the rich, which is basically the 21st century equivalent of eat the rich, whether anybody wants to admit it to you or not. How we need to defund ICE and remove ICE completely, and then no more wars. I keep telling everybody, this one isn't one, at least for we, the current generation, that we started. Iran did in 1979. Now, if you want to go way back to the 50s, it's kind of our fault. Britain was really upset over Iran electing a socialist prime minister who wanted to nationalize their oil, and the oil was currently being worked by the British Petroleum folks. And the reason, one of the reasons I'm don't tax the rich is because I also say don't tax the Rick. Taxation is theft. Good morning, BZ. And it's early for you, so thank you for stopping in so early. It's only like 9 o'clock where he's at, and he worked late, so I'm kind of surprised he's up this early. But here we are. Anyway, dude, I don't even know where to start other than just the absolute stupidity of everything that's happening across the country today. The scary thing, and if you listen to the left, and I'll be the first one to tell you, the outcomes in education in Oklahoma are not great. However, here's the big problem. Because even the supposed number one state in the country, Massachusetts, Miss Pocahontas talks about that stuff all the time, right? So guess what? Even the supposed number one in the country barely meets any of the benchmarks and only comes close once. In 4th grade, they have a 51% math proficiency. By 8th grade, that drops to 37%. 4th grade reading, 40%. 8th grade reading stays consistent at 40%. New York, that's another one that likes to yell about how much better their education system is than everybody else's. 4th grade math, 37%. 8th grade math, 26%. 4th grade reading, 31% proficiency. Again, 8th grade reading, 31% proficiency. Now, I'm about to piss some of you off. The reason I don't hold the Oklahoma numbers, and some of them are bad, in nearly the same level of, oh my God, is you have to realize how much smaller our populations are. So we're talking about 31% of maybe 1 million kids when you think, maybe 2 million kids when you think about it. Our entire state population is only 4.5 million people. So we're talking 31% of 2 million people versus 51% of, that's less people in one borough of New York City. So just saying. So yes, 4th grade math level in Oklahoma is not good. It's 31%. 8th grade math drops even further, 17%. 4th grade reading, I'm sorry, that's 8th grade math. 4th grade reading, 23%. By 8th grade, it drops to 20. So yes, Massachusetts, even using the benchmarks, not counting the pay scales and everything else, because that's part of where all this gets skewed. Because I've seen all these ads popping up here lately again about how teachers are leaving Oklahoma because we pay 22% less than surrounding states. Has anybody bothered to check how much different the cost of living is in those surrounding states, for one? But for two, this isn't a local problem anymore. When you're talking about the number 1 versus what is supposed to be like number 49 versus wherever New York falls, and the numbers are that close together, this isn't a money problem anymore. This isn't a state problem anymore. This is a national level problem. And I've been saying this now for years. We have become a cookie cutter society. We want everything done easy, quick, and we want it as interchangeable as possible. So everybody's education is the same. That doesn't work. It never has. And the scariest thing is we have science that supports the fact that we know these things don't work, but we keep trying to do it anyway. And the funny thing is we never even start hearing about these things until we start becoming adults. Then we either go to college or we get certain jobs where they start testing your aptitudes and your learning styles, and you find out there's 3 or 4 different ways that people like to learn. Some people do learn best by reading. Other people learn best by observing. Other people learn best by doing. So why are we not using all of this data to figure out where kids best fit in and steering them towards academies that support their learning styles, that whether they have to be active to be able to maintain attention? That was one of the things that my oldest, who is not my biological child, but he's always been my son. It's one of the things that drove my oldest crazy. He actually got so tired of school that his mom and I got in trouble for him being truant. But we didn't know enough about how any of that worked, so we tried to make him face consequences for his truancy and went to court. You know who got slapped for it? Us. We got to pay a fine. So we kept trying to make him go to school. Eventually, he decided he'd had enough, and he talked his aunt into going to live with her. His aunt didn't make him stay in school. As a matter of fact, at 17, but I think they let him take it at 17 and a half. He took his GED and topped out. It wasn't that he wasn't smart. It wasn't that he didn't know the material. He was bored. Because he's always learned best by using his hands. But instead of taking all of this data that we have and all of this stuff that we have about all the different ways that kids can learn and best ways to hold their attention and how we could do these things, well, that's too expensive. Really? Is it really that much more expensive than what we're doing now when we're getting these kind of results? The number 1 state in the country has an 8th grade math proficiency of 37% and an 8th grade reading proficiency of 40%. And that's, how much money are they throwing? Good after bad to get to 37% and 40%. I mean, I'm no math whiz, but that means not even 50% of the people in Massachusetts can do reading and math at their grade levels. And don't even get me started on science and all the other things that you actually have to have a basic understanding of to be able to do life right. So if those things aren't working and all we keep doing is throwing more and more money at it, maybe we should start looking at how to fix it by not just throwing money at it, but actually taking all of these studies that have been done and all of these things that we know and trying to put them into practice. But instead, you know what they've done? Half the country don't have school today. I know, because my granddaughter's home today. You may or may not occasionally hear her in the background because sometimes my gate doesn't filter her out. That's okay. I don't really care about that. I'm just letting you know if you hear, a little squeaky voice in the background, that's what you're hearing is my granddaughter. Usually you hear at the close of every show anyway. But instead of figuring out how to make sure kids can retain information and become productive citizens, the only thing school seems to be doing now is teaching them how to hate themselves, especially if they're white, how to not feel comfortable in their own skin, again, especially if they're white, and how to become disgruntled protesters on your dime and my dime. While, of course, ensuring that almost everybody gets a free lunch, because that's just how things work now. But here's the thing. So if Massachusetts is the gold standard, New York isn't even close enough to brag, and Oklahoma is not close enough to pretend this is just a coastal elite problem. Massachusetts is beating both of them, but even there, the supposed best-in-class state still has only about 4 in 10 kids proficient in reading by these benchmarks. So, yes, Oklahoma has a problem, New York has a problem, but America has an even bigger one because our education system is obviously broken when the supposed number one education center in the country isn't really hitting the benchmarks either. Could you imagine if you and I had a job where we were routinely presenting 40% of our deliverables? We'd be fired. Teachers get unions, teachers get benefits, teachers get, in some cases, even in depending on where they're working, even get this thing called tenure that makes it almost impossible for them to be fired. But you and I, if we were only doing 40% of our work or only delivering 40% of what our bosses asked us for, we wouldn't be here anymore. We wouldn't be there anymore. Teachers, yeah, that's okay. And the worst thing about this is teachers are now openly embracing communism and trying to pass it on to our children. And you've seen it actually start trying to work. The 18 to 30 crowd thinks communism is the best thing since sliced bread and wants to know why we haven't tried it yet. I need you to hear me. We are fighting to save this country, but we're losing on almost all fronts, or we were. There have been some major tectonic shifts this week, and a lot of people are pissed, and a lot of people are finally like, maybe we can save this thing after all. I don't really know where I fall yet, and I'll be honest, I'm not even sure it deserves to be saved anymore. And I'm saying that during our 250th birthday celebration. I don't even know if we deserve to be saved anymore. Because when all we're doing is teaching kids how to game the system, memorize enough test information where they'll get skipped ahead anyway, because No Child Left Behind got twisted into this crazy ass thing where it doesn't matter if they don't understand it. We don't want them feeling stupid, so we're just going to pass them forward. These people eventually have to enter the workforce, and they have almost no idea what they're doing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is another reason why the left keeps pushing for what they call a livable wage. Now, I know this wasn't on my topic today, but because it's how this show is starting to shape up, I'm going to back up for a little bit. I'm going to give you guys a history lesson as to how and why our education system that sucks balls today got the way that it is, because it didn't used to be that way. You know what happened? A guy by the name of Rockefeller, who was really heavy in the industrialization, when the Industrial Revolution was really kicking off, and he was investing in machinery and factories and all these things. And he started pondering, what are we pondering tonight, brain? The same thing we ponder every night, Pinky. Oh, sorry. I have a bit of a cold, so those impressions probably aren't working as well as they usually do. Well, cold, allergies, tomato, potato. But anyway, so look, this is what he did. He started commissioning studies to find out exactly how long it typically takes to be able to indoctrinate the average person. Because up until then, 8th grade was kind of it. If you went on to college, then that's when you did 10 through 12. But 8th grade was kind of it. At that point, people were either going off to do trades or learning how to do farming or going on to education. Now, you may laugh about that, but I would like to remind you that almost every American in this country that only had an 8th grade education also understood Latin and calculus and a bunch of things that we don't know shit about today. So take that with a grain of salt if you wish. But so what he figured out was the average indoctrination cycle takes about 12 years. So what did he do? He started philanthropic work and said, hey, I'm going to start donating money to start funding schools, to increase the amount of time that kids are in school and the hours that they're in school and the length of time that it takes to graduate. To, you guessed it, not counting kindergarten, right about 12 years. Kindergarten came later. Because he decided that he wanted people that were just smart enough to operate his machinery, but not really smart enough to ask questions as to why they took these jobs in factories and then never really wanted to do anything else with their lives. Noticing anything about what's happening today with our youth? The Democrats keep trying to funnel them into jobs like McDonald's and Burger King and Sam's Club and say, you should just be able to get this job straight out of high school and pay your bills for the rest of your life. But that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. But it's how it works for them. Because if they can get you thinking that if I can get a job flipping burgers and make $75,000, $80,000 a year, why would I ever need to do anything else? Not realizing or not caring that a lot of these jobs that they're now funneling people into were stepping stones to be able to get onto bigger and better jobs. Now, I'll be honest with you. I think the concept of minimum wage is retarded. There should be no minimum wage. The market should be able to pay you what they think you are worth. And if you don't think you're worth that, then you take what you can learn from that job and then you move on to something else. But as long as all we keep doing is keep raising the floor and saying, well, we're going to pay you more for doing the same job you were doing 5 minutes ago. Have you noticed what's been happening, though, since they've been doing that? When's the last time you went into a fast food restaurant? Because they're all like this now. I don't go to them that often anymore, but I've had to lately because I've been helping somebody who's been in and out of the hospital. So I'll usually stop off and grab something quick for lunch or something because I'm starving. And there's kiosks everywhere now. There's nobody at the counter. If you try to order from the counter, they look at you like you're crazy. The last time I tried to use a McDonald's drive-thru, where you go to order to pick it up at the window, they said, we don't do orders this way anymore. You have to order advanced in the app and then come tell us that you're ready to pick it up. Or you can come inside and use the kiosk. So here's the problem. We're not teaching kids anything. This is going to offend some of you, and I apologize for nothing because it's still the truth. We're teaching them how to be stupid, just stupid enough to be able to operate a cash register, whatever the case may be, and then we're slowly taking those opportunities away from them as technology increases. Because we're not teaching them and we're not giving them the ability to try to strive for anything anymore. They just want it all. They want it all and they want it now. And society keeps telling them that's what they deserve. That's why everything's so broken. That's why you have all of these people that are so mad. You've got teachers that are mad because, and the scariest thing about teachers is I have teachers in my family who tell me all the time they're doing this because it's a calling. Is that not the same for every teacher? I mean, hell, I do what I do now, and I do what I used to do because I thought it was a calling. Even when my company fell apart and I started working for other people, I was still doing jobs where my primary job was helping people with situations, whether it was broken equipment, whether it was messed up reservations, whatever the case may be. I was still doing my level best to help people in my society. It's what I have always done. Am I an outlier now? Because I'm really starting to feel like an outlier now. But that's the scariest thing about today is in America, on our 250th birthday, in the same year that this will be our 25th anniversary of 9/11, we're openly celebrating communism. By telling kids you can stay home, and if you want, you can even come protest with your teachers about taxing the rich. Which again is basically the 21st century equivalent of eating the rich. All right, so we're going to take a break. When we come back, I've still got plenty of things to talk about. I haven't even scratched the surface of the things that I've had on the list today. But I wanted to start with the education thing because, again, that's scary to me. Teachers are telling kids, you don't have to come to school today because we're going to go out and protest the president, and you're welcome to come with us. And even in the number one state in the country, when it matters, because fourth grade is one thing, dude. Fourth grade, I can't speak for anybody else because hell, I was reading at a college level by sixth grade. surprised a lot of my teachers because I was reading at like senior level college by 6th grade, and they're like, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, 40% at 8th grade in the number one state in the country. 37% in math. Math is the purest science we have. Math is the building block for almost everything in our society. Without math, we couldn't have developed an alphabet. Math was the beginning. And only 37% of 8th graders in the number one state in the country are proficient in basic math. But sure, let's go protest. Let's go protest. That'll be fun, right? All right, so we're doing things a little bit different. I normally do the first responder tribute first, but I think I'm going to do it the other way today. So military tribute coming up because it is finally Friday, and we'll be right back. This one's a bit long, so it'll give me a chance to take a look at a couple things. I saw a couple of breaking things. Is kind of why I want to take a peek, which is why I'm running the longer break now. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Before the oath was spoken out loud, before you stood apart from the crowd, there was a moment, quiet and clear, when you chose to stand while others stayed here. You raised your hand with a steady resolve, knowing some nights don't end when the mission's done. Not for glory, not for the pay, but for something worth more than walking away. Only hold the line. They carried the weight where the roads ran long, through dust and heat when the days went on, holding ground mile after mile, doing the work that rarely drew a smile. They stood their post when relief ran late, shoulders squared under the pull of fate. Not chasing headlines, not asking why, just staying put when others pass by. We stand watching different ways, different nights, the same long days. One old spoken carried through, wherever duty calls us to. We stand watch over the deep. Navy. They kept their watch where the water turns black, miles from shore with no quick way back, measuring time by the rise and the fall, answering duty's unrelenting call. Through silent hours and endless seas, they stood their post in the cold night breeze, guarding the lanes the world depends on, so others slept and the light stayed on. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long days. One old spoken carried through, wherever duty calls us to. Simplify Marine. We go where we're sent. We go where we're sent. They moved as one when the moment came, side by side through fire and rain. First to step where the ground was thin, not for the odds but for the ones beside them. Trust was earned in the hard way through, every promise carried by the few. No turning back once once the line was crossed, they stood shoulder to shoulder as brothers, never counting the cost. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long day. One oath spoken and carried through, wherever duty calls us to. Air Force, the sky is our domain. Air Force, the sky is our domain. They held their focus where seconds seem eternal, soaring between clouds and blue. Every movement measured and true, knowing what one clean moment could do. They watch the whole while guarding the small, every mission tied to a larger call. Calm under pressure, steady and clear, keeping the promise from far overhead. Space Force, we guard the dark without veil. They keep their vigil where silence reigns, beyond the weather, beyond the rain, watching the paths that the world relies on, long before the warning lights come on. No cloud, no banners, no clear view, just constant care in a canvas full of stars. Standing the watch through the endless night, guarding the systems that keep us in light. While the watch is kept and the lines hold fast, they're alive, still moving on the other side of that. Empty chairs and quiet phones, long goodbyes that don't feel done. Names we carry but never say, folded flags and debts we pay. Every service, every scar reaches farther than the uniform ever could. Coast Guard, we come when it matters most. They launch into storms when hope feels thin, turning back isn't an option then. Hands reach out where the waters rise, pulling lives back from the edge of time. No headlines waiting when the call is done, just breathing restored and another life won. Every rescue, every return, a quiet promise kept in the worst conditions. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long day. One oath spoken, carried through, wherever duty calls us to. For the ones who raised the right hand high, swore the oath and didn't ask us why. For the nights you stood where freedom cost, we remember, we honor, we won't forget the loss. From the ground to the sea, to the open sky, to the guardians above where the silent stars fly. Every branch, every badge, every battle scar, because you stood, we live free. Lord, we know we stand here freely because others stood before us. We accept the weight of what was given and the cost that came with it. We promise to remember those who serve, those who stand watch still, and those who never came home.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this is the Finally Friday edition. All right, so we got of the Rick Robinson Show, just in case you didn't know. You should know by now, but just in case. Oh, by the way, it's my birthday month starting today. So if you want to get me a birthday present, you have a couple of options. One, you can just make sure to go to Spreaker and listen to as much of our content as you want, because that helps me get paid. Two, you see the little barcode in the corner. You can scan that thing, send me a little birthday tip. Or if you don't want to do any of that, the only other thing that I would ask that you do is maybe donate to Tunnels to Towers, since it's the 25th anniversary of 9/11 coming soon. So you guys decide how to celebrate my birthday with me, and that's up to you. All right. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there because I probably, everybody else does it, and I've never really been into this whole it's my birthday month thing, but I think I'm going to start trying to take advantage of that now that I do half-ass have to shill for a living now, which I don't really like, but it's required. And I got to thinking about it. I was like, I guess it wouldn't really wouldn't be that different if I had founded a church like I thought I was going to. Oh, you may or may not occasionally hear some roosters. My neighbor, we don't have chickens anymore, but my neighbor has a bunch of roosters, and they've suddenly decided they like my yard. So they've been going to town today. Anyway, so yes, I live in the middle of nowhere for a reason. All right. So it is Friday, so I'm going to try not to be super serial all the time. So I got a couple of things that I wanted to talk about because I guess TMZ is having a bit of a cow because the GOP is basically saying that, the whole first gay president thing kind of got locked in by Obama. And so TMZ is talking about it. Somebody that's supposed to be important on the other side said something like, I hope that he sues them for defamation of character. And all I can say is this. I'm going to put this on the screen. So this, I'll be honest, I didn't even know this was a thing. And I'm looking at the date and I'm like, dude, this was like within a few weeks of me retiring. So I can't imagine that, started because I started full time in October of 2023. So I can't imagine that if this had been something that had popped off right around that time, that I wouldn't have spent like the first week that I was on air all the time making fun of this statement. But apparently this is making the rounds again, and I did check. This is a legit headline. Now, of course, when you try to source it, everybody, well, I just this was a letter to an ex, and he was just pointing. No, I don't know. Look, I'm secure enough in my heterosexuality that if I'm around a gay friend or something and they're being stupid, I will be stupid back because I don't care because they know I don't swing that way. But I have never in my life told an ex, a current, a former that, yeah, I fantasize about banging dudes all the time. Barack Obama apparently did. And for those of you that are listening to the audio later, again, this was published on August 12th, 2023. And this is, according to these folks, Barack Obama told ex, I make love to men daily, but in the imagination. Okay. I don't know a single hetero man who imagines having sex with other dudes. So look, I'm willing to give him the sake of argument kind of stuff here and say, well, maybe he's bi. But then you have to take into account like the mom genes and all that other stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't think so. Because I called him President Mom Jeans for reasons. And he wore mom jeans. But anyway, so yeah, so there's that. And in the other, you decide if they're gay or not. There's a story that just broke that caused X to go nuts. And people started talking about chest cannons and all these things. But apparently there's a story that leaked out, and I don't remember who it was that was supposedly dating her at the time. But apparently an ex of Winona Ryder said in a fairly recent interview, I guess, that he dumped her because her chest was too big and she liked to have sex too much. Gay. And all I can say about that is, one, I never really paid that much attention to Winona Ryder's chest. But if either of those things or both of those things are true, life is just unfair. Just unfair. Nice, BZ. Now you've got Ren and Stimpy in my head. Stimpy, how many times have I told you? I am the pitcher, you are the catcher. See, you did that. It's your fault. All right. So those were the funny hits on the way back from break. Now we got to get back into the serious stuff because, of course, well, first of all, I guess I have to do a bit of a retraction. On Sunday night with BZ, we were discussing an AI video or a video enhancement of the incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And in that AI enhancement, I guess the AI got confused because there were artifacts. So the AI enhancement made the guy that jumped out of the way still retarded. Looked like he had a baseball cap on. So we were kind of speculating. Well, if he had a cap on, he's obviously not Secret Service. Well, now neither one of us really know for sure because there has been a re-released enhanced video that does not have him wearing a hat. So now I'm back to not knowing if I should be pissed off at a Secret Service agent or not for ignoring every bit of muscle memory training dude should have had. Because again, I'm not putting the video back up, but if you've seen the video, and I'm sure by now you've probably seen it at least a million times, when dude runs past the checkpoint, you can plainly see that they have it as kind of a choke point. So it's not that far from a wall. Dude, instead of jumping back, if he would have just jumped forward and thrown him into a wall, the rest of it would have taken care of itself. Now, the good news is it still got taken care of. Now, this is when I get really serious for a second. Because, and trust me, I'm trying to give them all the leeway that I can because I know they were working with no budget then and they were trying to make do with what they had and all these different things. But if this had been a team trying to do this, or if they had, God forbid, figured out that, hey, there's an underground parking garage not too far from this place. If we pull a World Trade Center, not with the planes, but everybody seems to forget about the World Trade Center attempt with fertilizer, just like they tried to do just like they successfully did in Oklahoma City. We would be having a completely different conversation right now. Now, again, I was not privy to any of this stuff, so I don't know if they had, bomb sniffing dogs and all that stuff on the perimeter. But I will say this, as somebody who used to work these kind of events, a uniformed individual, just one on every floor, may have been enough to deter that man, or at least slow him down. And again, it's really easy to sit back here and look at all this and go, well, if I were in this situation, this would have been what I would have done, which is not something that I normally try to do, except for the fact that, again, not to this extent, but I have done this kind of work. So I know that I'm about 99% sure what I would have done in that scenario, which would have just been throw a shoulder and knock him into the wall and let somebody else tackle him. But, I wasn't there. So I don't know. Maybe even all my bluster about shit, especially now, my muscle memory gone. I don't practice enough anymore. Probably going to start again, but I don't practice enough anymore. All right. So another bit in the same vein from a different angle. And I didn't really think about this at the time, but thanks to Amy Curtis, who will hopefully be joining us for Weekend News Roundup at 3 today, she put a thought in my brain. I've had an apostrophe. Lightning has struck me brain. Yeah, because remember the brewery who was like, we were this close to free beer, but you missed. Isn't offering goods or services in exchange for whacking someone a contract? Just saying. All right, so we're not going to read the whole thing because I'm sure she'll probably want to talk about it later, but I am going to read from a couple of the posts that she pulled from the article. Minocqua Brewing Company owner Kirk Bangstad has potentially committed a serious federal crime by posting a Secret Service agent's cell phone number and telling his followers to call the agent and tell him to stand down from the investigation. Okay, so here is a bit of what we're talking about. But I would say, while this may in fact be a crime, I'm still saying since he actually offered goods or services in exchange for somebody pulling a trigger, I'm kind of thinking that might count as a hitman request. I'm just saying. And yes, I know legally it would be a bit of a stretch, but it's got more legs than 8647, and they're going after that one. Look, I said this the other day. I absolutely detest Comey. I think he's a terrible human being. But at the same time, that was rather innocuous. So this is the voicemail they left me. Can't attach the actual audio. Working fast here. Bangstad wrote on X. He then shared the voicemail with the agent's phone number, which was redacted in the Heartlands Post image. Call this number and ask the Secret Service agent to stand down and honor his oath to his country Bangstead added at the end. The problem with that is the Secret Service has a different oath. They're supposed to be protecting the president. So by investigating this, they are in fact honoring their oath. This is from, it looks like, Passably Affable on X. I would think that offering a financial good for the death of a president would be kind of illegal too. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, you're basically offering a financial benefit or financial good to somebody who whacks a POTUS. I'm kind of thinking that's illegal too. Anyway, and the scariest thing about this guy is he is in fact rather dangerous, because this is the same guy who targeted Moms for Liberty and conservative school board members who like to use the SPLC's hate list as his guiding principles. Anyway, so yeah, say what you want. I'm honestly thinking that, if somebody was dumb enough to say, "Oh, we almost got free beer," yeah, I'm thinking that then becomes a contract. I could be wrong, but I could be wrong. All right, so I wanted to talk about those couple of things just so I could make sure that I got the fix out of the way as far as the conversation BZ and I had the other night. Plus, I wanted to just make sure that we roasted the bar owner dude. However, I've got something else that I want to talk about, kind of in the vein of Mayday, because it is Mayday. This is from my good friend Gene, who apparently I've been adopted by. So a few weeks ago, I sat in because Ross couldn't be there. And then I stopped sitting in when Ross came back, and they were both like, "The show's more fun when you're there." So I noticed today on the Instagram, I am officially now part of the crew. He actually said, "Tune in every week as me and Ross and Rick do this." And I'm like, there's an inside joke here, because that's actually how I have managed to nab a couple of people who work with me full time now. I had them on as a guest, and they were like, "That was fun." And I'm like, "Good," because that was basically your audition. You want to do a show, and eventually talked them into it. So I have officially, because they called that the podcaster version of a Rickroll, because I have them on as a guest and then I roll them into the lineup. I just got Rickrolled by Gene, which is fine. I have fun over there. But I was just like, he did it to me. So now I understand. All right. But back to the Mayday stuff, because we got to talk about it. And hang on, let me fix it, because I don't really mind Mandami being that tiny, because I think he's a small man, but that's another story. So communism, great idea till they try to practice it. Watch this.
For those who have watched budget after budget, it is tempting to assume that we are engaging in the same dance as our predecessors. Let me assure you, nothing about this is typical.
The city comptroller Mark Levine painting a grim picture of the city's economic future, reporting that the city lost 38,000 private sector jobs over the last year.
That is not good.
The city's budget gap will now likely be $7.3 billion over 2 years, almost $2 billion more than what the mayor's office has been projecting.
You weren't not even close.
New York City faces a budget crisis of a historic magnitude. We inherited a deficit larger than any since the Great Recession.
All right, so I'm going to stop right there. This isn't a very long clip, but I still want to stop right there for a second, because I find it very interesting that a Democratic socialist is now complaining about inheriting a debt from another Democrat. I thought it was Republicans that drove up the deficits. That's their story all the time. That's what you hear at the national level all the time. Barack Obama fixed Bush's mess. Trump broke Barack's economy. Biden fixed Trump's economy. Trump now broke Biden's economy. I saw that earlier today. But the funny thing is, no matter what the letter is behind the name of the guy that comes before them, their answer is always the same. I can't do all these things that I told you I wanted to do because I didn't know how broke we were. Really? Didn't you? I thought how broke pretty much the entire country was kind of common knowledge, especially when we start figuring out that most of the money that we were supposed to be using to fix all these things were going into you guys' certain special sacred grift programs. Anyway, let's let this finish before I rant some more.
We cannot close this deficit with savings alone. We need new revenue.
What does that mean? We need new revenue. What that means is we're going to tax people.
Beautiful, lovely taxes.
Now that you've bumped up against the hard realities of a $5.4 billion budget shortfall and the other red tape that you have to go through, do you still believe in democratic socialism? Do you still think it can be effective?
I believe in it even more than I did the day before.
Okay, so that was some good editing by my friend Gene. However, that was pretty much how I felt when I heard that line. Because you're looking at a budget shortfall. You don't have any idea on how the hell you're going to fill said budget shortfall, but you still think you're going to be being able to do all this quote-unquote free stuff, which isn't free, by the way.
Welcome to the People's Republic of New York, where the dreams get taxed and the buffoons all talk. Red line stretch from the Bronx to Rockaway, hopes on layaway, and we all pay.
The commies are in the red again, and then they're going to want us to bail them out. I say hail to the nah. I say hail to the nah. All right, so getting caught up with the chat. Mamdani, 1, I don't want your money. Number 2, I want all your money. And then Steven chimes in from the chat. 3, we're running everything without capitalist money. No. Yeah, you're close, BZ. But remember, I think it was actually 2% was the original tax rate, I think. But it was only supposed to affect the top 1% of the country, which, if you listen, has been their argument the entire time. Anytime they bring up new taxes, this isn't really going to impact you because we're going after the rich folks. But the scariest thing about this, and I talk about this all the time too, is we had, up until that point, one of the most Republican forms of government ever. Because yes, Congress had control of the purse strings, but we had absolute veto control over how much the purse had in it. Because if the government wasn't able to raise enough for whatever pet project it had, through its tariffs or anything else, they would then come to us and say, hey, this is what we want to do. We are short. We're going to offer treasury bonds. And if you want to support this, please feel free to buy some treasury bonds. And if there was enough of a treasury bond buy to fill in the bucket, they got it done. If not, it didn't happen. So what had happened was, in World War II, they passed a temporary income tax, a temporary progressive income tax. I think it was World War I. Sorry, somewhere. No, Civil War. I'll get it right eventually. I haven't slept much. Civil War. They passed a temporary income tax, and then because it was temporary, eventually it sunset. And then what happened after that is every 2 years, a new crop of Democrats would come in, some of which were still the leftovers from the previous 2 years, into the House and go, hey, gee, guys, remember when we had that progressive income tax and we didn't keep having to go to the country with hat in hand and saying we want this, we want that? Wasn't that awesome? And of course, all the Republicans thought, hell no, it's stupid. That's why we got rid of it. But they kept coming back. And it was like that old cartoon with Spike and the little dog. Eventually, Spike gets pissed off, knocks the crap out of the little dog and says, okay, fine. So that's exactly what happened. Republicans, after going through this for 10, 20 years or so, came back and said, look, this is what we'll do. We'll leave it up to a vote of the people, which means it has to be a constitutional referendum. And of course, the Republicans were thinking, there's no way in hell the American people are going to be stupid enough to let you guys just turn them over and check their pockets whenever the hell you want. So we're just going to put this to bed once and for all. And instead, we're back to what had happened was. What had happened was they use the same language they use today. This isn't going to impact you. This is going to be a 2% tax on the 1% most wealthy of America. So you're never going to have to worry about it. So then, because this was around the same time that everybody, this is when the process started to have us, instead of looking at somebody that had managed to do well and having a parent look at their son or their daughter who's got a gleam in their eye as they're watching some fancy car roll by. Hey, this is America. If you like that car, you work hard enough, one of these days, you're going to be able to get that too. This is when that started shifting to, oh, you like that car? Well, I know it's not fair that they have it, and don't worry about it, because eventually we're going to make sure that they don't. And that's when that mind shift started happening, was right about then, around the same time that the Industrial Revolution had officially completely kicked off, about the same time that Rockefeller was changing how our education system worked philanthropically and all these different things. And there was this huge conglomeration of events, kind of the same thing you're seeing now, but kind of in reverse, where they were like, well, maybe we really should tax the rich. Never realizing that when they were talking about the top 1%, this part has never really changed. When they were talking about the top 1%, they were talking about the top 1% of the entire world. Guess what we pretty much are? But that's the part they left in parentheticals, meaning they never really said that part out loud, but they expected you to not figure that part out. Anyway. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. We are top of the hour. Actually, we're just a little bit over, but it's my show. I can do what I want. Hang on. I'm fighting with something here. Because I just realized normally I've already broken by now and done the other song, and I didn't do that. So we're just going to do something else real quick so we can get out of here. But yeah, I know. You guys are like, you're doing an awful lot of history lesson stuff today. That's because we have teachers that are off telling everybody come protest about communism and how great it is with us today. That's why. So consider this my counter-revolution to the damn revolutionaries. My name's Rick Robinson. This is my show. It is Friday. We'll be right back after this break. Stay tuned.
I've seen the fire in our nation's eyes when anger prowls for prey. I've heard good people draw their lines and call it holy rage, but the cross was never raised to bless the stones we throw. And if mercy leaves the house, there's something wrong down in the soul. Words ain't bullets, but they can hit the same. And once a heart turns cold enough, it forgets what grace is for. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. No room for hate. No, no room for hate. No room for hate. You can wave a flag above it. You can quote a verse or two. You can dress it up like justice, till it almost sounds like truth. But outrage no place. No room for hate. No room for hate. No room for hate. Drag it to the cross, lay it in the ground. Let the blood of Jesus turn the whole thing around. Truth can still be spoken, courage still can stand, but rage don't get to rule the soul of a faithful man. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. Let revival start. Oh, where the anger breaks. Where the anger breaks. Let healing rise up. Oh, where the hurt gives way. No room for hate. No room for hate. No room for hate. No room for hate. Not in Jesus' name. Name. No room for hate.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
I kind of forgot my camera was on, so hi, everybody.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
You've been warned.
Alarm clock barking like it's got a vendetta. Coffee tastes like bad decisions I ain't made yet. Boss man talking about we got her, and that means me, brother. Afraid I got a terminal case of the I don't want us. Mind checked out, heart ain't in the building. That second hand's crawling like it hates my guts. The man treating rich like it's a sin. Even God took a beat. So Suck it. Thank God it's Friday, punching out loud. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and the boss still prayer.
I know. I usually let more of it play, and it's mine because I wrote it. So it's usually okay, but we got too much to talk about today. I realized I haven't made it through like a 10th of my stuff, and I keep finding more stuff to talk about. So anyway, it's the Finally Friday edition. If you haven't done so yet, please make sure you are liking the feed, sharing the feed. I don't know why, because it's like occasionally things really pop off, and it's like everybody can see us, and then there's days like today when I feel like everything's being hidden under a rock. Got almost nobody on YouTube, got a few people on Facebook, got a few people on X, but compared to what we usually pull, it ain't a good day numbers wise. I don't get down about it anymore, because there's no point. But it's just I'm trying to figure it out, because it's like some days we're on fire and other days we're just not. And with everything that there is to talk about, I kind of figured today would be one of those on fire days, and it's really kind of not. But anyway, since it is Mayday, we're finding out here in America that communism doesn't work yet again. Spirit Airlines is now officially finding that out, because after failing to secure a government bailout, because everybody got used to, well, we're too big to fail, so we need your help. Yeah, they're about to probably have to shutter, because the government said, yeah, no, you can put that hat away and put it back on your head, because we're not giving you any money. So, which is really sad when you think about it, because I, for one, am very, very sad that those standing seats of theirs that they were about to start trying to roll out will probably never see the light of day. I will say this, though. The disgruntled passenger videos from Spirit were really entertaining. So I'm thinking Spirit should have started putting those out on their own under their own X account and just using that revenue for supplementation. But, what do I know? So, yeah. So really glad right now that we have a president that's like, yeah, no, we're not going to just give money out willy-nilly. Now, of course, somebody that was seeing this post was like, oh, yeah, sure, but we can bail out Israel. Did we, though? Did we really? Because that's not actually what we were doing. But anyway, so let's get back into the stuff that I actually had scheduled for today, because like I said, I have barely made a dent, and there's plenty of things to still discuss with all the craziness that's been happening. So this is a news story. And this is another one where I'm just kind of looking at this going, maybe it's time for us to start treating the world the way the Muslims do when they get disrespected. Because this just, speaking of things that would have happened if Biden were still in office, because there would have been a Spirit Airlines bailout if he was still in office. This is something that actually did happen when Biden was in office. And it's just now, for some reason, even though we've talked about it before, really starting to make the rounds in the news. So here's this.
On a new DOJ report alleging the Biden administration targeted Christians for investigations and prosecutions. Lauren Green is live from New York City. She has much more. Hi, Lauren. Good morning.
Hey, Dana. Well, the Department of Justice-led task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias released 14 findings that paint a picture of the Biden presidency that went beyond disagreement and moved to punishing Christians who held conservative religious beliefs in conflict with the administration's pro-choice gender ideology agenda. The report found the Biden DOJ brought multiple cases against pro-life activists, many of them Christians, under the FACE Act, the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances. Email correspondence shows prosecutors privately mocked Christian pro-life views as culty and pursued more severe charges and harsher sentences for peaceful protests or pro-life defendants. In contrast, following the Dobbs decision in 2022 that overturned Roe v. Wade, there was a wave of vandalism and arson targeting churches and pregnancy resource centers. But the Biden DOJ pursued comparatively few prosecutions under the same FACE Act. Christian colleges and institutions were scrutinized and penalized for holding traditional views on gender, accusing them of Title IX violations and threatening school funding and accreditation. The report also cited the infamous FBI memo out of the Richmond field office that warned of radical traditionalist Catholics as extremists. The memo was withdrawn after public backlash, but the DOJ revealed it relied on the now disgraced Southern Poverty Law Center's list of hate groups. But the task force report concluded that the administration worked to suppress religious speech it did not like and used the weight of the federal government to marginalize certain kinds of Christians.
People on the left think of themselves as defenders of the separation between church and state, but instead what you have is the state authorizing and sanctioning certain types of religion over others.
A spokesperson for President Biden declined to comment, but Catherine Lahman, a former education secretary for civil rights under the Biden administration, told Politico that, quote, there was no religious discrimination that operated to infect any of our investigations.
All right. So, yeah, and we've talked about this before in drips and drabs as the news was coming through, but now it's been completely confirmed exactly how much the Biden administration and the left, by extension, hates Christians, even though most of them claim to be Christians, which I find interesting. But yeah. So, okay. So we got to talk about this, right? Because remember that find people on both sides hoax that we found out was basically creative editing because they took the part out where, Trump was talking about there are people here on both sides protesting the removal of the statues for different reasons, and those are very fine people on both sides of this argument. But of course, it was edited together to make it seem like he was talking about the Charlottesville folks, which we now know were basically funded, or at least if nothing else, goaded by the SPLC, which is also the same group that helped all of this that we were just talking about. But now, because after spending years with the left saying, oh, you guys are Nazis, and his very fine people comment proves it, now they're saying this main Democratic candidate for Senate is a very fine person, even though up until he got called out for having a Nazi tattoo and had it changed and even posted a few things that sounded rather Nazi-ish beforehand, but now he's, well, I was younger then and stupid and people change. And dude, you didn't even cover up the tattoo until you got called out for it. So don't tell me that you changed. You got caught, and now you've been trying to spin it ever since. The scariest part about this, though, isn't him. It's the fact that somebody like Bernie Sanders is campaigning with the dude. How much of a self-hating Jew do you have to be to actually campaign for a Nazi? And before you give me any shit, I've asked that same question of George Soros, who actually worked with the Nazis, and he's Jewish. How much of a self-hating Jew do you have to be to work with the people who want to exterminate you? But after the blatant racism that we've seen from the Democratic Party, especially when it comes to the Jewish minority lately, you have to ask him that question altogether. I don't understand how in the hell a Jewish person could ever vote Democrat in this country again. With everything that's come out with Palestine and all the college-age Democrats chanting from the river to the sea. Now, granted, most of them don't really know what that means because they couldn't find Israel on a map if you highlighted it for them. Most of them, anyway. But the Jewish people know, because from the river to the sea means there's no more Israel. And yet, these people keep voting for the party that wants to destroy them. Same thing with most people of color. The scariest thing about what has come out with this recent Louisiana decision isn't the decision. The decision was rather straightforward. Segregation, no matter the intent of the segregation, is illegal and shouldn't happen. That is a common sense statement, and it is true. The scariest part for me was listening to the ACLU attorney, who happens to be a female of color, stating that they needed those special dispensation for those districts because white Democrats don't vote for black candidates. I'm going to say that again. We need these districts because white Democrats don't vote for black candidates. I'm going to tell you this again. How many times have I told you? Every time somebody from the left calls you a racist, it's because they know their side is, and they assume we are too. Every time they call you a Nazi, it's because they know at their heart they don't like them either, but they're a means to an end, and they assume we feel that way too. That statement coming from an ACLU attorney should have made anyone who heard it should have made their blood run cold. But everybody's excusing it. Now you've got Hakeem Jeffries. Now they're still talking about we're going to find other ways to blow up even more districts. Really, how are you going to do that? You've already New England, the lowest percentage of Republican participation population-wise in New England is 33%, I believe. And in that particular state, they have 0% representation. In other states, the numbers are even higher, and they still have 0% representation in Congress. So how exactly, without breaking the law, are you going to...
Breaking the law, breaking the law, breaking the law.
Sorry, had to be done. But how exactly, without breaking the law, are you going to take care of those things and fix them? Because you already tried. Virginia is likely going to be smacked down. And at this point, even if it doesn't get smacked down, it's not going to matter. Because with what's happening in Texas, what's happening in Florida, what's likely going to be happening in Tennessee, what's happening in Louisiana, now that they've called an emergency session to get their districts redrawn, whatever other gerrymandering you do to try to fix it, we're just going to keep doing it. So you guys have a decision to make. And by this, I say everyone has a decision to make. We can either keep redrawing the maps every 2 years to political advantage, or we can stop going to war with one another over stupid shit. It's a decision to make. Right? Yeah, so BZ in the chat. Funny thing is, the people objecting to the SCOTUS opinion as they held a press conference were all Democrat blacks. Not one white amongst them. Racist gathered in one place to push racism. And that's the thing. I'm going to say this again. When an ACLU attorney is basically telling the Supreme Court we need these things because the call is coming from inside the House, that is not a me problem. Because guess what? I didn't vote for Barack Obama, but it wasn't because he was black. It was because I knew his policies were going to be stupid. And I was right. I didn't vote for Kamala Harris, not because she was black, but because she was being passed off as some sort of a MIMSA member. And not only that, even if I wanted to vote for her, she never had to go through a primary. Why the hell would I vote for that? She didn't survive the only primary she was ever actually in. Then she got picked as vice president because the president-elect said, well, I need a female of color to fill this position. Reverse racism is still racism. You can't end racism by running to the other extreme. It cannot happen that way because then you are still segregating. And I'm going to be honest, because this happens all the time. You hear about it on college campuses all the time. College students set up areas where they're like, from this time to this time, this day on this day, this is only for certain people. You know what? If individuals wish to segregate themselves, who am I to stop them? But the funniest thing about all of that, when you think about it from the angle of everything else, the same people that tell you borders are bad are the same people that say, hey, you can't come in here from this time to this time on these days because we're not comfortable when you're here. So they can make borders all the time. And they do. Because they suit their purposes. The same people that were screaming and yelling about ICE to get out, guess what? That basically is you trying to enforce a border. You don't want these people here, so you want them to leave. That is enforcing a border. Why are borders okay only under your circumstances? Because that, ladies and gentlemen, is the height of hypocrisy. When it's borders for me, but not for thee and only on my terms, that is hypocrisy. When it's districts for me, but not for thee and only on my terms, that is hypocrisy. And I don't care who's doing it. But all of this, SCOTUS is taking us back to Jim Crow. SCOTUS is ruining America. SCOTUS just gutted civil rights. No, they're enforcing civil rights. And I'll be honest, some of this stuff may have been something that we needed back in the 60s. But all of this was put to bed a long time ago, until 2009, when all of us who were mad, not really, I mean, upset. I don't really want to say mad, but I was really upset when Obama won. Not because he's black, but because I already heard enough about his policies that I knew he wasn't going to be somebody that I wanted to be president. But then he gave his speech after he won. And I listened, and I did what I always do. I did my best to get in line behind whoever wins, because once they have won, if you keep pushing against them, you are technically rooting for the guy who's currently in the cockpit to crash the plane into the side of a mountain. And I don't want to be the guy who does that. And I listened to him, and I will be honest, for a few minutes, I bought some of his hype. And I was feeling pretty good when I went to bed that night in 2008? I was feeling okay. I was like, hey, maybe some good's going to come out of this, even if there's going to be policies that I don't like. At least we can finally put this racism thing to bed. Maybe it won't be as bad as I think, because, there are still checks and balances. Sorry. But that, when you think about it, that's still that should make everybody laugh, but still. But yeah, so I went to bed kind of feeling positive, and then I got up the next day and realized that I was insane, and then watched as everything slowly started falling apart even before the dude got sworn in. And that's why I was diametrically opposed to his presidency. The policies that he had talked about, because remember, most of our markets run on futures. When he started talking about tinkering with healthcare, when he started talking about changing how we dealt with the automobile industry, changing how we did this, changing how we did that, everything fell on its head overnight. And the next thing I know, and this is before he's ever even sworn in, I had companies that weren't paying me anymore when I was running my security agency. And they kept saying, well, we're not sure if we're going to be able to keep paying for it. I'm like, okay, cool, that's fine. But at least pay me for the work I've already done. And then if you want to let us go, I'll even let you out of your contract. And it didn't matter at first, because I had a factoring company. I don't know if anybody knows what those are, but basically you sell them your invoices. They pay you 80%. They then go through the process to collect you your money, and then they take 5% off the top and give you the other 15 after they collect everything. Well, by December, that wasn't working anymore. So the factoring company stopped accepting my invoices. By January of 2009, I was working somewhere else for another security company, while I kept trying to run mine in the background with a couple of contracts that I still had left that were paying. And then by September of 2009, I had shuttered my business, wasn't doing security at all anymore, and it changed fields completely. All of that happened within a few months of Barack Obama being elected. Because that's what happens when the folks that make businesses work are afraid of your policies, they turtle. And that's why, no matter how hard the Democrats keep trying to tell you exactly how bad this economy is, the folks that actually understand how businesses work and how economies work are still pumping money into our economy. The GDP reports just came out. I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but from everything that I've seen, they were in positive territory. Nobody was expecting that. Stock market is back up near 50,000 again. Nobody was expecting that. Gas prices, if Biden was still in office, would be $10 a gallon right now. But everybody wants to talk about how bad it is that here in Oklahoma, we're paying like $3.50 a gallon. Granted, it's $3.50 for ethanol, and I hate that shit. But it's still not as bad as it could have been. And it's because there are people that are running this ship that understand how things work. And they know how to make things keep going forward, even if there have been some bumps in the road. But if you listen to the left, everything's terrible and everybody's going to die. But if you haven't been paying attention yet, pretty much since Kennedy, that's been the leftist narrative. Kennedy was really the last hopeful Democrat that I can remember. Well, I mean, Jimmy Carter, kinda, but Jimmy Carter was the scarecrow. Nice enough guy, affable smile, had no clue what he was doing. And it showed. All right, final break of the show. This one's going to be the first responder tribute because it is Friday. We'll be back. I have so much stuff still on the table, but we'll be back. And no, I'm not doing anything extra because I have the news show to do, and then I have He Said, She Said to do, and I have to do a simulcast for SHR before He Said, She Said. So, yes, I work my ass off even on Fridays. And I'm not trying to bitch about it, even if it comes across that way. And it may be. I don't know. Just telling you. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Comes in, somebody answers. Day or night, they're already moving. Calm voices, fast hands, doing the work while the rest of the world freezes. From a headset to a truck, from a badge to a door, they don't stop to count the cost. They step in when it matters. It's not about being seen, it's about being there. They're holding the line when the lines go dead, standing their ground when the world goes dark. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line through the fire, the flood. When everything falls, they don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. Before the sirens fade, before the scene is clear, someone's already making sense of the moment. Keeping people alive, keeping things from getting worse. Some run toward danger, some stay behind and hold it together. Different roles, same weight, same promise to show up. When everything's on the line, they're already there. They're holding the line when the lines go dead, standing their ground when the world goes dark. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line through the fire, the flood. When everything falls, they don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. This is service, this is sacrifice, this is how lives are saved. No spotlight, no applause, just showing up again and again. They're holding the line when the world goes dark. When everything's breaking, they hold their ground. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line. So we raise our voices for the ones who stand. Every voice, every badge, every helping hand. They don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. Always standing in the gap for us all.
And welcome back into the It's Finally Friday edition of the Rick Robinson Show. I hope everybody's having a great Friday. My chat is currently having a discussion about how terrible ethanol is and using scientific stuff. I'm just going to go back to doing what I was doing. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I have to occasionally make them feel like nerds because then I feel better about myself. Wait, did I say that out loud? My bad. That was supposed to stay in my head. Anyway, so yeah, I haven't even scratched the surface of the stuff that I wanted to talk about today. And some of you are going to hate me for this one, but we're doing it anyway. Hang on. Yeah. This is the mindset of the left, though, since the Louisiana decision. And their screecher in chief is the one that is, shouting the loudest about it. On the 5. Yes, because there is no real Democratic leadership right now. I just call Jessica Tarlov their screecher in chief. It's only a minute and 22 seconds. Earplugs if you got them, if you need them. Here we go.
So you're against what Donald Trump had Texas do then? Because you have districts.
I'm against. I can see.
Well, a majority of Americans are against all of this.
Yes, me
so
too.
They want a gerrymandering ban.
I don't like gerrymandering.
And so do Democrats. They
Right.
had a ban, and no Republicans supported them. And frankly, as we look ahead to 2028, when this will really matter, so for the midterms, it's going to have a near negligible effect. In some cases, it could net the Republicans 0 seats. Best case 3 to 4, and we can tick down through what goes on in Mississippi, Louisiana, South Carolina, and even Florida, because what their new map violates the state constitution there. But the gerrymandering ban has been available to Republicans, and they should take the Democrats up on it. Because if you listen to Hakeem Jeffries' press conference earlier, he was talking about the states that he's now eyeing. And there's a scenario in which suddenly Illinois is completely blue, Maryland completely blue, Colorado, California, there'd be 52 seats. And Representative Terry Sewell, who could be losing their seat, said, yeah, this is, to use earlier language, this could turn into a maximum nonviolent warfare moment where everybody says, if this is the law of the land that you can go around gerrymandering like this, we're going to try to get ourselves the most advantageous position.
Well, at least I will take.
Okay, so before we move on to the next thing that I want to talk about, we have to talk about some of this. Because the reason Republicans didn't go along with their supposed gerrymandering ban is everybody seems to forget that in order to do the gerrymandering ban, the left was wanting to nationalize our elections. Which, I'm sorry, is technically unconstitutional. So yeah, she can say that all she wants. Well, I don't like gerrymandering either, but you were one of the ones touting and crowing and laughing when you thought Virginia's election was going to stand, and now you're butthurt like the rest of them. And I'm going to say this again. We, just like everything else that I've been saying, we didn't start this. You guys were the ones that decided, because the only way that you could win was to cheat. And you didn't think we were ever going to fight back. I'll be honest, we're still not fighting back in the way that I wish we were, but at least we're finally starting to fight. And now you can hear the copium in her voice. Well, it's not really going to do anything for the midterms. As a matter of fact, it may wind up being a net zero gain for the Republicans. No, you're wrong. That's why you guys are freaking out. Because Georgia's about to redraw. Tennessee's about to redraw. Louisiana's going to redraw. I mean, by the time it's all said and done, that little AI meme of Donald Trump coming into the lower part of the map and just spraying pretty much everything bright red could be legit. Now, is it going to take full effect before 2026? I don't really know. But we've already managed to negate whatever happens in Virginia just with what we've already done. So look, it's up to you guys. We can keep fighting this way. But I'll be honest, I'm still in the it's time for an amicable divorce camp. Because if we're not going to get rid of the filibuster and we're not actually going to get things done, then we've got to figure something out, because we cannot coexist with these people anymore. Because everything they have accused us of doing that they have used to win elections, they have been the ones doing. And their side still won't even acknowledge that fact. Because
well, you're using news sources from Salem Media. Everybody knows how much in the tank they are for the right-leaning folks and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and yeah, and you get your news from PMS Now. Who are they in the tank for? I don't know how we get along with these people anymore. They want us dead, and they're not even hiding it anymore. And a lot of the folks on my side are still like, can't we all just get along? No, I'm sorry. I don't think we can anymore. And it hurts me to say that as much as it hurts you to hear it, but it's still the truth. And trust me, I don't like it either, but it is where we are. If what happened last Saturday has not woken you guys up, since this is now the third attempt when he was in the same place as the person trying to kill him, and 4 if you count the dude that tried to jump the fence at Mar-a-Lago who thought he was going to be able to take him out. I'm just saying. But this is where the rest of this is coming from. It's not just Jessica Tarloff. These people are all screaming about racism now and how this is, Jim Crow and all this news, all the same stuff they say every single time, when in reality it's just, hey, everybody deserves representation, and if you have a problem with white people not voting for your particular candidate flavor in your party, then maybe you should figure out how to deal with that and quit making the rest of us do it. But here's this.
Look, I think that we need to understand this as both a redistricting story, but also as a democracy story. The redistricting story is very clear, which is that the state of Louisiana is trying to cancel these elections so that they can gerrymander and discriminate. And
Mr. Elias, sir, and yes, I use that flippantly for a reason. They are not canceling the election to gerrymander. They are canceling the election because the Supreme Court of the United States of America just said you can't use these district maps because they're illegal. What did you think was going to happen? Did you think you were going to get, we'll just use them now and then fix them for 2028, right? No, they're illegal. They cannot be used. What did you think was going to happen? The same thing with fucking Governor Hairgel. Oh my God, they're canceling elections. This is racism. No, SCOTUS said these maps cannot be used. They are illegal. And here's the thing that nobody's talking about. This is something the left has been doing, especially in the South, since the 60s. They have been doing everything they can to draw these little plantations where black folk are basically feeling like they're stuck because it's the only place they have representation and it's the only place they feel safe. Now you've got Whoopi fucking Goldberg talking about how, there's Nazis with dogs keeping black people from voting. The scary thing is I think she actually believes it. If that's the America that in her head she feels like she lives in, I can kind of understand why she's angry and scared and sad all of the time. But the scariest thing about that is the reason she believes that, if she does, and only she knows for sure whether she's bloviating, sorry, BZ, or if she's actually being honest, she's the only one who knows that. But if that's honestly how she feels, she has nothing but her side, nothing and no one but her side to blame, because she has been being told for years now that we are the boogeymen. That conservatives are terrible human beings. The funny thing is, conservatives keep trying to put black people in office. But we're the racist. Is my microphone not working? Yeah, there it goes. For some reason, the green stuff wasn't happening there for a second, so I wasn't sure if I was going through. But anyway. Yeah, I was going to play the Whoopi clip, but I don't have the energy for that, so I'm not going to. But back to this, because we got to finish it. But yeah, she basically just says, that it's racist white people's fault that we can't vote. It's basically what she said. And what he says here isn't much better.
And disenfranchise black voters. But the larger democracy story, Chris, and I think you got it exactly right, is the governor has declared a state of emergency to cancel, to suspend an ongoing election. Yeah. That he does not like the direction in which it's going. Now, I wonder, Chris, when we get to next November, when we get to the general election, whether or not we will have, for example, a president of the United States who will think he can do this. And if we do not sort of put a stake in the ground now and say that you do not get to declare an emergency and suspend voting and sort of restart things because you don't like how things are going. If we don't do that now, it's not going to make it easier for us to do it in November.
Yeah.
Look, I think that.
Okay, so I'm going to say this again for the morons that think he's right. They didn't suspend this because they want to gerrymander. They suspended the election because the maps were declared invalid. You can't have an election with invalid maps. So for all of you folks that are now jumping on the bandwagon and, well, this is all about racism and they're just going to make sure that they get to have the election that, no. The Supreme Court said we can't use these maps. All right, I'm sorry. They can't use these maps because I don't live there. But what this does, and I talked about this with G on Wednesday night, this actually opens up the ability for all of these states that have been redrawn using this as a leverage point to say, no, if it's illegal there, then that automatically makes it illegal here, which is why now Tennessee is talking about redrawing. Georgia's talking about redrawing. The only one that I haven't heard yet as to whether or not they're going to try to redraw that I know of that would count within that group is Alabama. And G was thinking that they may actually have to go to court themselves to try to get it done. And I'm like, I don't really think so. Because the same practice was being used all through the South. And the Supreme Court just said, hey, yeah, we can't really do that because discrimination, regardless of your intent, is still illegal, especially if it's government. And that's just it. If people want to segregate themselves and move to certain places, they have the freedom of movement. We can't really stop them. But when the government starts saying, we're going to build you these little plantations to make sure that you feel like you're getting representation and that you keep getting to vote for the people that keep wanting to give you free stuff. Yeah, that's where we are with that. All right. So there was another thing that I wanted to get to real quick. A couple of quick hits with Congress. They have managed to reauthorize FISA for an extended period. I don't remember how long exactly, but it's not the 2-week thing anymore. And I have to admit, I'm a little pissed off about that. Even though we're at war, FISA has never really been something that I've been a huge fan of, and it's usually been used against us. And I'm going to say this again, just because you like it right now because Trump is using it, eventually, hopefully, long after all of this, like maybe 100 years from now or something, if we do it right, the Democrats will get a turn, assuming the party still exists, and we're not going to like it when they use it. How do you think they gathered all the information they gathered on all the Christians that they basically flagged as terrorists? Why do you think Joe Biden, flanked by Marines, bathed in red light with American flags hanging down, was talking about half the country as if we were terrorists? Because as soon as a president mutters those words, what do you think happens? All of the arms of all of the little spy agencies and all the little human asset agencies start ticking away at, well, if they're terrorists, then we should be able to take a look. Yeah. No. But I can kind of see why you wanted to go there. All right. So, but the other semi-good news with all that is yes, FISA has been extended, but the shutdown for the most part is officially ended after 75, 80 days, somewhere around there. But the new Homeland Secretary, basically letting us know exactly what the bean counters told him right about here.
What we have now is an opportunity to actually move forward. What was taking place was tearing Homeland altogether, from the Coast Guard all the way down to ICE and everybody in between. Just TSA, we lost almost 8% of the workforce, which is almost double what our attrition rate typically is.
Yeah, so how do you replace those people?
Well,
Can
it
you
takes
get them
4 months. Well, not really. It takes about 4 months to onboard people. Just CISA, who's over, CISA, by the way, takes care of our cybersecurity. We're down 1,100 people.
Down?
Down. So almost a third of the workforce is no longer with us. 76 days being shut down, not being able to be operational. People say, well, but they're getting paid. We had State Department paying our electricity bill. We had DOW, Secretary Hegseth was paying our gas bill for the United States Coast Guard to operate. We may be able to pay paychecks, but we couldn't do anything. We had contractors walking off the border wall. We have drone defense companies that we're subcontracting from that was walking off jobs because we have MOUs, memorandum of understanding with law enforcement that's got to deliver these 11 cities that we got FIFA coming to with the World Cup that haven't been paid since February. It was absolutely absurd, and AOC wants to sit there and say it was worth it. We are tasked to protect the homeland. I don't care where AOC lives or how she votes. My job is still to protect her constituents. And she thinks it's worth it to put their lives at danger because no other agency protects the homeland. DHS protects the homeland, and she thinks it's worth it. It's sad.
So,
all right. So, yeah, nearly 80 days, all kinds of attrition, everything else, which, again, government shrinkage doesn't really hurt my feelings. I'm not going to try to pretend that it does. But this was still stupid. All of this was just dumb. We never should have been in this position. Democrats put us in this position, and it's just stupid. Let's see. Okay, so we haven't done as much fun stuff as I usually try to do on Friday, so we're going to start wrapping things up here in a second. So he's back in the news again, and we got to talk about this. I don't really know who decided this would be a good idea, but President Biden is campaigning for someone. Yeah, we got to talk about that. The cauliflower in chief is back in the news, and here we go.
Mayor Keisha Lance Bottom. I've known her for a long time, and she's something special. As mayor of Atlanta, Keisha faced every challenge a leader could face, and then some. A global pandemic, a major cyber attack on the city systems, economic uncertainty that tested every community across Georgia. Because she handled it all with steady, thoughtful leadership. That's the definition of battle tested. Keisha's tenure as mayor of Atlanta left $180 million in the bank without raising property tax, gave historic pay raises to police and firefighters, created a child savings account for every kindergartner in Atlanta's public school system. That's a record to be proud of. And then she came to the White House and served as a senior advisor. And I'll tell you, those same qualities that made her a great mayor made her invaluable to our administration. Smart, focused, gets things done. Georgia, she's ready. She's been ready. Keisha Lance Bottom for governor. Now, I'm proud to be in her corner, just like she was in mine. So let's get this thing done.
I mean, if you're trotting out Mumra as your campaign spokesperson, I don't know what kind of hope you actually have, but sure, go ahead, I guess. Okay, so a couple more quick hits before we get out of here. Just to try to clear some of what I have on the decks. Okay. So you would think, and this just came out yesterday, so you would think that especially because of everything that has happened in the last couple of days, that CNN will be running stories about how terrified black voters are of Donald Trump, blah, 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 yada, 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 and everybody would probably believe it, and yada, yada, yada. But instead, we got this. And CNN, I'm pretty sure the producers in the booth have probably been put on a suicide watch. Oh, wait, did I say that out loud? My bad. But yeah, here you go. You would think this would be going the other way. Now, granted, this is just from yesterday, and this is fairly new news. So there could be a shift, but right now, I don't think this is what CNN expected to be reporting at 8:42 a.m. yesterday.
What we're seeing right now in the numbers is President Trump and the Republican Party are chipping away at the long-term advantage that Democrats have had with black voters, with African Americans. You can see it right here. Look, Trump's approval among African Americans at this point in term one, he was at 12%. You know, he's been losing ground with a lot of people. He's gaining ground with African Americans. He's up to 16% at this point. And you say, this isn't that big of a shift. But I will tell you, Republicans absolutely love this shift that's going on because Democrats have had such a long-term advantage The fact that he's actually gaining ground versus where he was in term number one, this has major implications for elections down the line because Democrats, especially in a lot of these tight races, you talk about places like Georgia, right down in the South, you see this type of movement for Trump actually gaining ground. This could have major ramifications and could help put Republicans over the top in a number of southern places in the midterm election. What we're seeing right now in the numbers is President Trump and the Republicans.
So you heard it. This shift could be enough to put Republicans over the top in a lot of these battleground areas where people of color vote more often. And CNN is rather despondent about that fact. As well, they should be, because this is a mess of their own making. Again, what's happening is everything we're finding out about folks like USAID, folks that we're finding out about the SPLC, the fact that we're now finding out that all these people that have been screaming about racism actually admit that it's their side that's racist. I mean, I'm going to say this again. When a female lawyer of color is arguing in front of the Supreme Court that we need these special districts because white folks in our party don't vote for black folk, you figure it out. All right, so I said I wasn't going to play that. Oh, we got to talk about this because I played this last night on Jen and Rick, but we got to talk about it now because Scott Jennings, I swear he's become a national treasure in my eyes. I don't know how he sits on CNN all day, every day, putting up with their crap, but I'm so glad that he does because he's our side's version of Jessica Tarlov because they trash talk him all the time, but he's better because he's on our side. Mostly kidding, but dude, it's not even about Tarlov being a woman. It's about her disingenuousness. At least when I can't think of it. Harold is on. I can't think of his last name right now. At least he tries to say, "Hey, I kind of agree with you there," but you know, this is how we should do it instead. She's just always carrying the water. But then again, with as well as they get along off camera, I'm pretty sure she's playing a part. And if I remember right, that was actually part of the reason why Glenn Beck eventually left first CNN and then Fox News, because he was taking all this very seriously and not trying to play a caricature. And when he figured out a lot of folks that are doing these jobs he got upset. Now, I don't know if I don't think that's the case with Scott Jennings, because I've seen some stuff that he says when he's not on the show too, and he's pretty consistent. But this is kind of important because he just kind of shoved something right back in their faces right after this voting rights change.
My view is that states ought to decide this. A. B, regarding John's argument, I just fundamentally think that the government shouldn't be in the business of dividing us up by race. It's fundamentally racist to divide us up by race. We have African-American members of the House winning in districts across the country with plurality white populations. We are well beyond the issues that were at play.
The issue there is
Clarence Thomas. We've obviously got some serious deficits. We haven't had an African-American Republican governor since Reconstruction. I mean, you know, there's unfortunately imbalance between the two parties.
Republicans tried to elect one in Virginia.
Okay. Well, I'm
just saying. And then you got a white Democrat who gerrymandered the state. It's all crumbling.
We're going to end this here. Everything is crumbling, clearly, at this table. Next, speaking of crumbling, the panel is going to give their nightcaps.
My view is that state.
All right, so as we get ready to get out of here, I do have to give an update on a story that I put out yesterday through Digital Beacon. There has been a state representative found dead here in Oklahoma. OSBI is still investigating, so we don't really know much more than what we knew yesterday, but just to give you the quick hits on the way out the door, what we do know as of right now, as soon as I find the article again, where's my stuff? Maybe if I go to profile, I thought I was on my profile, but I don't know. That's weird. Yeah, it's not really working. Scroll in. And the funny thing is I actually know exactly where it's at in another place, and I didn't think to grab it. That's weird. It's not showing up on the... Why is it not showing up on the front of my profile? Okay, hang on a second. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about with X, though. It's doing some really weird stuff because I am on the profile that I wrote the article on, and it's not on the front of my profile, which is interesting. So hang on, let me change back real quick. We're going to go a couple minutes over. Not too long because I got other work to do.
in a little bit, but I definitely wanted to touch on this. So hang on. Yeah, anyway. Dude, I didn't talk about, yeah, I guess we'll save some of this other stuff for the news roundup too, because there's other stuff that I left in the stack of stuff that I thought was kind of important, but I do have another hour to do here in just a few minutes. So, Oklahoma Senate candidate Barry Christian found dead after being reported missing. Barry Dwayne Christian, a Republican candidate for Oklahoma Senate District 38, has been found dead after being reported missing earlier this week, according to local reports and statements attributed to his campaign. Christian, age 54, was listed as a Republican candidate for Senate District 38 seat in Oklahoma's official 2026 candidate filing records. The Oklahoma State Election Board listed Christian as a candidate from Sayre, Oklahoma. According to KOCO 5 News, Christian was reported missing after he failed to appear for a scheduled meeting on Tuesday. Local authorities, including the Harmon County Sheriff's Office and the Beckham County Sheriff's Office, had asked the public for help locating him. On Thursday, investigators located a truck matching the description of Christian's vehicle in the Sandy Sanders Wildlife Management area near Eric. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations confirmed that a body was found inside the truck, which had crashed into a ravine, according to KOCO Channel 5 News. KJRH also reported that the OSBI located the truck near Eric and that investigators said a body was found inside the vehicle at Sandy Sanders Wildlife Management area. Christian's campaign said in a news release that he had been found dead. According to KOCO, authorities had not publicly released a confirmed cause or manner of death. And as of Thursday, and then again even today, there have been no updates there. Christian had been campaigning for the District 38 seat and had recently appeared at the Mangum Rattlesnake Derby. According to KOCO, the outlet also reported that Christian had posted earlier this month about issues facing Oklahoma communities, including education, workforce, public safety, agriculture, and family opportunities. Since this is a developing story, I, as well as the rest of my Digital Beacon team, will update this report as soon as we have more information available. And as of the time that I started putting notes together for today, there have been no updates other than OSBI is still officially investigating and no cause of death has been released. But that's going to do it for the show. I'll be back now in less than an hour, just barely, with my friends over at the Weekend News Roundup. My name is Rick Robinson. We're going to get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and thank you so much for those of you that decided to hang out with us today. I'll be back Monday with this one. I'll be back here in just a little bit with Weekend News Roundup, and I'll be back tonight with He Said, She Said with the lovely Aggie Rican. But before that, make sure you come out at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 Central, for Beer and Bullstein with Lyle Armstrong. Right here, live on KLRM Radio, live on SHR Media, and available later anywhere you can find your lovely, fine podcast-terrificness. Sorry. Michael Loftus put that word in my head. Blame him.
It's the Rick Robinson Show where the truth rides high. No spin, no script, just an eagle in the sky. From D.C. to Tulsa, he's calling it out. Mic in his hand, yeah,